I don't come from a musical family. Early attempts to get me music lessons failed miserably. My childhood piano teacher even told my mother, "Take your money every week and throw it in the garbage. Albert will never be able to play the piano." I grew up in the Pennsylvania suburbs, and the arts and classical music are really just a marginal part of the culture, really not really a part of the culture at all. It just wasn't on the radar for me. In fact, I was a science geek. I always thought I would become a scientist. And I looked for things that I could be good at that didn't involve schoolwork. When I was 13, I think, then I discovered running for the first time. And on my high school track team, I had a colleague who was obsessed with jazz guitar, and he was always talking about all the great jazz musicians. And it made me curious, and I thought, well, if I tried the piano as a kid, then maybe I could learn a couple of pop songs or something. I signed up for lessons with the local piano teacher down the street. I had discovered, thanks to her, music of George Gershwin, and I was completely crazy about Gershwin's music, and I went to the library and the record store and listened to everything I possibly could find. A month into lessons, I went to her and I said, "Okay, I'm learning the Rhapsody in Blue," which is Gershwin's concert masterwork. Then I got the lecture where she explained, well, this is for real concert pianists, and you just started. This isn't exactly beginner's material. So I don't care. I have to learn this. I already bought the score to it. And she said, but you can't read music. I don't care. I'll find a way. Less than a year later, I gave my first on-stage performance, and it was of the Rhapsody in Blue. Going out on stage for the first time, I was excited and nervous. I was almost too naive to be too nervous, and I just had incredible adrenaline pumping through me. Just the sheer joy and the sheer thrill of sharing this music that I loved with a large audience was really extraordinary to me. And I got a standing ovation for it. It was such an emotional experience in a way that science could not be for me, and the emotions really carried the day. When you experience something like that, it could very quickly become addictive, and you want to do more. You want to pursue that more and then share more with more people. It didn't exactly meet with approval from my family, to say the least. My parents unfortunately ended up selling the piano. They tried to deliver a very clear message that this wasn't a great thing to pursue. I couldn't practice piano at home and had to stay at school to practice on a piano there that was in terrible condition in an extremely hot room, and I would go to the library because there was a piano there. I must have disturbed everybody there. I would go to friends' houses, etc. Anything to get my hands on a piano. Then when I got to college, I did end up studying electrical engineering for several semesters. The first day on campus, the first thing I did after I dropped off my things was ask somebody how to find the music building. It was in my fourth semester that I realized that there just is not enough time to study two extremely demanding subjects, engineering and music. Well, a couple of years later, I was about to graduate from college, and I just had one and only one plan, and that was to study in Vienna. And I knew of one way to get there, and that was through the Fulbright scholarship. When the plane landed in Vienna, it was just magical that I was suddenly living in this city where so many of the greatest composers throughout history lived and worked and in many cases grew up. And that was such an extraordinary moment for me in my life.
I was amazed about his facility. That is the first thing which struck me. Wonderful hands and able to do anything with the hands. But of course, I had to teach him what to do with the hands.
I got to study at one of the top music conservatories, and I was working with some of the top professors, and everything seemed so great to me. And then some obstacles got in the way. One is that I had little idea of how I would actually meet any living expenses. And two is my spine just gave in. I went through a period where I was pretty much incapacitated, and I had so much pain shooting through my neck and shoulder and back and arm that I couldn't play the piano anymore. I kept trying. I was desperate to find any kind of therapy that promised any amount of relief, and I was running from one doctor to the next, etc., really desperately looking for any kind of solution. What I realized was that I needed to rebuild my body if I was going to have the hopes of playing the piano again. Right at the point when it looked like I was fit again and I was starting to perform again, then all of a sudden I was running around the corner on an icy Thanksgiving weekend. A tram just hit me right in the face. I had broken my left wrist, which is pretty bad for a pianist. My left hand was in a cast for 6 or 7 weeks, and something great came out of that, actually, because I turned to a composer whom I really, really love and really believe in, named Cohn, and he happened to be basically the only composer to write a major work for the right hand alone, at least the only one in the 19th century. It was a great dream of mine to play his music, which is the most athletically challenging music ever written. I had little choice. And the great thing that came out of that was that led to my debut CD, which I dedicated to Cohn's music, and it was even nominated for one of the most prestigious awards in the recorded music industry, the German Record Critics Prize. Didn't end up winning, but it showed me that my voice can count, that it could actually reach people, and that really was enormously meaningful to me. My next major challenge is to record the 12 Transcendental Etudes by Franz Liszt. This has been a dream of mine for a couple decades, and I've spent years working on these pieces. It's true that these are some of the most famously difficult pieces in the piano repertoire, but to me, they're tone poems, philosophical essays. My great hope is that I have both the fingers and especially the artistic maturity to do them justice.
Start and have a little lesson on Liszt. What has to be mentioned is his capacity to adjust to rather difficult situations. The first adjustment he needed was to the fact that he had started much later to play the piano than other pianists. Most pianists, for example, in my own case, started at the age of 6, and it's even considered rather late. He started at 17. Fantastic. When you make a recording, do not think it's a recording. Think you are playing for an imaginary audience, preferable for 2,000 people. But it's enough if you have only 2 people listening to you. What I do in my recordings, I invite friendly people, that's important, to listen and to encourage me. So a good recording should sound like a live performance in a concert.
So your obstacles really, I strongly believe this, that our obstacles can turn into our greatest strengths, or we can turn them around. And it's something I really passionately believe in. This is actually a major thing that led me to the Ironman. When I was trying to solve the issue of extreme back pain, it took me a while to connect the dots and to realize that I was focused on the pain. And as long as I was focused on getting out of the pain, I was still focused on the pain. And I would get some results, but the pain would keep coming back. When I decided to turn that around, and I realized that I need to focus not on the pain, but on becoming strong and healthy, then that's when it started to make a permanent difference. Any major goal is going to involve setbacks and obstacles. If it doesn't, it's not a big enough goal. Second, the very purpose of our goals is growth. If somebody could hand you what you want, just like magic, then you won't have achieved it. So you won't get the growth that you're meant to get by working towards that major goal. And third, obstacles are opportunities for growth. They're tests. And to me, the entire key is whenever we get a setback, whenever we get an obstacle, is to realize that, yes, a setback, this is something that I can overcome. This is a new opportunity for me. It's a new chance. It's a chance to grow. The key is to recognize it when we have the setbacks. I believe passionately in that. I'm a hopeless dreamer. If I've achieved anything out of the ordinary, then that's the only way I've ever done it.